Hello, this is Anna, and I am going to talk to you a little bit about what I felt was very impactful and where I learned about some new things. I think that there was a couple of topics that really hit home for me, and I feel like I'm starting to gain a lot of good knowledge about the grief process of the perinatal deaths and how I can process those better and in a more healthy way because I've realized where I'm at. And some of that kind of stemmed from the book talked about some different models, and one of them was the dual processing model. And I feel like that model really hits home for me because understanding that it's okay for me to maybe advance and feel all right with myself moving forward in my life um, is one part of that process, while also reorganizing and figuring out things. Um, I guess it's a sense of restoring my sense of safety in the world, um, all of my assumptions about how the world works have been kind of uprooted by these experiences, and my kind of cultural balance is completely off because of it. And so just finding that again and realizing that these things are not my fault and there's things that cannot be helped, and how to move beyond those and the pain that it's caused. Um, I'm not sure if it's all right if I also include in this that the other thing that I have been really interested in is the topic of the children with disabilities as a loss, and how that having a child with a disability really impacts different aspects of your life that are included as losses. And one of those that I really understand is the loss of your role in society. I mean, even as a new mom, I experienced a lot of losses in not being invited to groups with other moms and kind of being alienated from a lot of things just because I had a child that was slightly different. And that was a difficult experience overall, but I am learning to overcome that slowly just because I have to be resilient for her and for myself. Um, this part of week 6 is particularly painful, and I really haven't fully processed all of my emotions around that loss of being a parent of a biotypical child, and I have not processed the loss of my child. I have my child with disabilities, and I am still experiencing some pretty strong emotions around that. And so most of the content in class so far has been very grueling from that aspect. Um, we read about complicated grief, and I determined that there may be some delayed grief associated with all these massive events I've had because I really need a safe place to grieve. And if it's not available, I'll hold all my emotions in. Um, and through all of this, I've kind of realized that that came from my childhood, probably being a daughter of someone with a disability like my mom has really, well, just understanding it from the grief perspective, I've realized that I have a lot of emotional insecurity about where it's safe to actually express my emotions because I'm not going to let them out if there's other chaos going on or other people are having strong feelings about something. And I've been self-reflecting a lot in this quarter about how I present myself as a professional and what my definition of myself is. My emotional reactions for many of these sessions has been to start crying uncontrollably as I am going through the material, um, especially when I watched the news article about the boys and the parents of the boys with disabilities. That was really moving to me. And hi Coral, I related to many of the struggles, and it just reiterated that loss is not only through death, but that there is so much more. And each day has a struggle, and how we adapt our roles is the indicator of how well we are coping with our grief. So, I mean, I guess I feel like we have the ability to be resilient to grief, but we have to also acknowledge grief and be okay with it because it is a part of our life, and we need to continue to advance and grow and develop as people. But on the other hand, there are painful processes in that, and it doesn't always just happen overnight. So I feel like I've been gaining a lot out of everything that we've been talking about. And the last question that you had for us was about what we think that the public should receive more training on. And what's really hit home for me is with the children with disabilities is that I think there needs to be more integration. There's pretty good integration in public schools, but I feel like we had, when my daughter was going into daycare, we had limited options for placement because of her disability. And it wasn't quite discrimination, but in private settings, they don't feel like they're ready to be able to work with her. And so they just kind of denied us in a gentle way. And that was really hard to deal with. I felt like there was a stigma, and I didn't want to put her in a place where that would be happening. But if those professionals had some training, I'll be with you in just a moment. If those professionals had some training around serving students like her with disabilities, then I think there would be more inclusion, and other kids would be more prepared to empathize with students who are different. In all settings and not just in a public school, because right now that's the only place that kids that have disabilities really interact with general education kids. And I think that private schools should also have a requirement for being able to advocate and include kids like her in those places. Um, as far as the lingering effects of the videos and readings, I usually spend time with my daughter after emotional sessions. She has a great calming effect on me, and it's really emotionally satisfying to sit down and read a book with her and just kind of emotionally debrief and put myself in a different position, because she does need me as her caregiver, and so I can transition into that role, and that's my comfort zone where I'm taking care of someone else, and so then I can feel like I'm back in my quote normal spot. I find connections with close peers and my loved ones, and they help me refocus also. And a lot of these difficult topics that we've had, I have just kind of shared with my spouse, and we experience a lot of similar emotions about some of these things. And so I kind of share my burden with him, and that helps me to process it as well. So it's been quite a journey, and I really have felt like I've been growing emotionally with this, and I couldn't ask for a better outcome. So thank you.